You have two options. Two options for why it is that you're not achieving your goals. It seems more likely when you're not achieving your goal that the answer is you're fundamentally incapable as a person. I'm a piece of shit and that's why I'm not achieving my goals. I'm incompetent. I'm not working hard enough. I don't want it bad enough. But there's no way that that's the case. That has to be the case so rarely in comparison to option number 2. Option number 2 is that your equation just isn't balanced correctly. Like, if you're not losing weight, the answer isn't that you're breaking the laws of thermodynamics. Like, oh, I'm not losing weight in a calorie deficit, so obviously the law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to me. I can be in a calorie deficit and not lose weight. It's like, no, maybe you're not in a calorie deficit. So maybe the reason that you're not achieving your goals isn't that you're fundamentally broken as a human being. You should operate under the assumption that that's not the case, because if that's the case, then you're just damned and you shouldn't bother trying. I felt this way, and I would imagine nearly everyone, when they're just starting out at the big thing, is going to feel like this. It doesn't really matter so much what the big thing is. So I think the best way to break this down is to split it up into 2 areas. The first of which is going to be expectations, and the second is going to be reasoning, your why. So let's start with expectations. If you're anything like me, you are expecting that the thing that's really going to solidify your progress towards your goals is that one of these days, after intaking enough information or after watching enough motivational videos, you're going to wake up and think, today I can do it. That you're going to wake up one day or experience an event that's going to ready you, to enshrine you with the divine will that you need to get going. And that would be so great. Like, that would be terrific. I think we all would love if that were the case, but I would say at least part of you knows that that's not how it's going to pan out in reality. So then, how are you going to get going? That's the right question to be asking. And to be honest, it's just kind of the reverse of what you're expecting. You're not going to want to do it and then start. You need to start before you want to do it. It's brutal. That's why beginning is always the hardest. And in my case, the way that this panned out was, I remember hearing a statistic when I first got into the gym. I don't know if it's true, but it doesn't matter because it worked. 90% of people quit going to the gym within the first 3 months. I was flabbergasted at that. But that laid out some parameters for me. I was like, okay, 90% of people who start going to the gym quit in that time. So all I have to do to be in the top 10% of gym goers is to make it through 3 months. I remember every time I was tempted to quit in that beginning stage, which is also the awkward phase in most things, but in the gym, it's really, it paints a very clear picture of the price that you pay for being a beginner, which is that you're putting in way more effort to this pursuit than you ever have in your entire life. For me, it was every day. I was working out every single day, eating the good food. I was running, so I was doing cardio as well. And nothing for nearly the entirety of the first 3 months. And then I crossed that barrier. It seems that the 3-month mark, the 90-day mark, is what really does it for most people. Once I crossed that finish line of the 90%, that's when things just started to pick up. And by 6 months, I was on cloud 9. The results spoke for themselves. I was in another world. I was so grateful that I had heard that statistic, because that's why I stuck with it. If I hadn't have heard that, I have no idea what would have happened. I attribute most of my success to the fact that I kept showing up knowing that I needed to get past the awkward, low return on investment stage. So here's what happens during that phase. Motivation is constant. You're not going to feel more motivated because you're not seeing more results. If anything, it's gonna be on a very slow, steady decline, because effort is going like this, results are going like this. But if you zoom out, effort keeps going up like that. Your results go like this. It's an L curve. So you don't go effort, reward. You go effort, reward, big payout. But you never get the payout if you don't start first. So you're not going to feel like you really want to do it and then start doing it. You're going to start doing it, and then once it gets to here, when everything starts going well and you see that you're actually getting something for all of this, investment, all of this struggle, all of this hardship, that's when it's going to click. That's when you're going to say, holy shit, I love doing this. Get me back in the gym. Give me my next meal. I'm ready. I'm going to make this happen. But up until then, you still have to do it. You have to work just as hard to get there, but you don't get anything for it. At least not in the moment. You do. It's just very much not an instantaneous feedback. But it gets better from both directions. So the trend that I've seen is that once you start getting good at it, that's when you start to love it. Not the other way around. You don't love it and start getting good at it. You start getting good at it and then you start to love it. But how do you start getting good? You gotta start. You gotta start, and it has to suck. It's gonna be super difficult. And this isn't exclusive to fitness by any means. Finances, relationships, personal development in general, mental health. Applying yourself sucks when you first begin, because there's just an accumulation of beginner's debt that needs to be paid off before you actually get any payout. It's a two-sided exponential feedback loop once that first payoff starts and you hit that first spike, you fall in love with the process. Then the amount of discipline required drastically decreases. Discipline is doing what you have to do when you don't want to do it, because you're going to start wanting to do it once it starts to pay off. So you start getting good at it, so you fall in love with it. So you start trying harder, so you fall in love with it more. So you start getting better more, so you fall in love with it more. And all of a sudden, it goes from this to this. And you just that's when results explode. When you're loving it and you're working harder. And those two are connected intimately. If you're not loving it, you're not going to work harder. Which is what brings us into part 2. We've covered expectations, reasoning, the why. Why are you doing this to begin with? The reason that I chose to talk about this second is because it's so much more important, and it's also more complicated. Expectation is clearer to outline because this is what you think is going to happen, this is what's really going to happen. But reasoning is very nuanced and individually dependent. So I'm going to try my best to cover it in a way that should cover most of our bases. My number one lesson for reasoning is that you need to stop being so short-sighted and shallow. Now that might seem hypercritical, and I'm sorry if that felt like an insult, but I think you may need to hear it. Wanting to improve so that you can prove something or escape a feeling, running away with no clear parameters other than, I want to convince myself that I'm valuable and I'm not actually a piece of shit. That's not scalable, and it's not objective, and it's too abstract. That's not a goal. That's a trauma response. That's not good enough. It's not good enough to keep you going for years. And if it's not good enough to keep you going for years without burning out or falling off, it's not good enough at all. So you need to think about how whatever goal that we're speaking of ties into what you expect from your life. When you think about your ideal life, what you see in your future, because we've all got that. At least I know I do. I know when I think about what my future looks like, I've got a pretty distinct image of at least the big elements, what they look like, my health, my relationships, my prosperity. Those main bases are what our entire value system, worldview, and habits are generally going to be built around. So if it's not coming from that place, if you're not thinking about health, love, mindset, legacy, stability, peace, prosperity, patience, you've already gone wrong. And that means one of two things. One, you need to re-architect how you're viewing this goal, or two, you need a new goal. And either one of those options is completely fine. But choosing to pretend like you don't need to pick one, that's going to f you up. So let's choose. You can usually tell, based on a gut feeling, if this is a goal that you should actually be pursuing. So, you can't accomplish goals like, I don't want to be fat. I hate being poor. I wish I was more confident. Or worst of all, I just want to be happy. You need to think more deeply about your goals. Find what resonates not just on an emotional or immediate level, but with your values and your ultimate plans. Plan what you can, and from there, allow your newfound knowledge and experience help you to find balance and patience in your pursuits. Stop tying your self-worth so intimately to your achievements and your goals, and remember that the point of pursuing all of these things in the first place was to find a deeper sense of contentment and build a better life for yourself. If that's not the place that you're coming from, of long-term happiness, stability, love, goals, we need to do some rethinking. So once you've got that established, once you've had enough time to think, why do I want this at all? So for fitness, if your answer is, I just want to look better. Why? So that you're more attractive. Okay. Why do you want to be more attractive? So that you can have someone to share all of this with? So that you have your entire world in one spot. Okay. That's probably going to change how you think about your lifting and your nutrition. If that's your primary goal, being attractive, and you can tie it into the more fundamental and important goals of your life of long-term stability, love, and fulfillment, you're probably going to be a little bit more gracious with yourself if you go over your calories or if you miss a training session. It also might help you to reprioritize fitness because there's a lot of other elements that go into that. Now, if you want to be in better shape so that you can be healthier, that's a much better position to start from because health pays dividends in every single arena. If you're healthier, you're going to be more attractive anyway. Your mentality is probably going to be better if you're healthy. There's nothing that doesn't pay out with. So health is a great place to start from. When you start getting into, I want to prove to them that I'm not just a fat, lazy piece of shit, that's when pathologies start to emerge. Why do you need to prove that? Do they deserve the satisfaction of saying, yeah, I motivated him? Is that what you want it to look like? They get the last laugh in that scenario. They told you that you weren't good enough because of X, Y, or Z, and you said, okay, watch, I'll be good enough. That's not what we want. Because that doesn't end ever. There will always be someone to tell you why you're not good enough. Do not help them. This is where I want to connect these topics to manifestation. I mean, choosing to shift your identity before your circumstances change. I used the example of smokers. There was a study done comparing people who were quitting smoking, and one group told people, yeah, I'm trying to quit smoking. And the other group told people, I'm not a smoker. Their outcomes were vastly different. People who led with the change of identity were so much successful at acquiring that identity than the people who had a more one foot out the door attitude. Burning the boats seems to be really successful with changing your life. If you don't have an escape route, if you don't have any caveats, it makes it a lot easier to believe in yourself. Because it's not conditional. It's not once I get there, then I get to believe in myself. Not once I lose weight, then I deserve love. It's, I deserve love, but I should also probably lose this weight. The identity is going to shape your habits, not the other way around. In the scenario of changing your identity once you've already changed your life, you have to be thinking about all the things that you need to change. That's constant. That's going to be the case either way. You always have to be considering what it is that you need to change. But in that scenario, you also have to think about, when am I good enough? When am I there? I don't want to hate myself and have to work really hard. And it is a choice. It's not a choice you make one time, but it's a choice that you make. You make it every day. Every day when you speak to yourself in your mind. I know that this video isn't directly fitness related. I didn't talk about how many grams of protein you're supposed to eat or how many sets of chest you're supposed to do each week, but this mindset is going to really change how fitness goes for you, because I didn't start with this mindset. And I've been in and out of it. So there have been many a moment where I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel deserving of love. I didn't feel deserving of basic human necessities because I wasn't there yet. I hadn't defined where there was, so I was never going to get there to begin with. And when I began to realize that, and that I could just choose to give myself the love and validation that I deserve, or decide that I deserved the love and validation that I wanted now, I was able to pursue my fitness goals like I was before, but I was also able to be happy. And that's what it's all been about. So, yeah. I hope that this was in some way useful and that you can choose today to be the day that you are good enough and worthy of the love and attention that you've needed all this time. And go out and achieve your goals with that behind you. You're going to be so much more powerful if you're not questioning how worthy of a human being you are. Eliminate that conversation and just get to work. I believe that you can. Mwah.